The frozen moon of Keth 7 was no place for mercy. Its crimson ice field stretched endlessly under twin suns, and the howling wind carried the scent of ozone and death. Draven stood at the center of a widening circle, his breath forming clouds in the thin atmosphere as 23 pairs of luminescent eyes locked onto him. The Voralpack had found him. These apex predators were legend. Across 4 star systems, 8 feet of corded muscle, obsidian scales, and fangs that could pierce starship hull plating, they hunted in coordinated strikes that had wiped out entire colonial expeditions. Draven's crashed shuttle lay 3 kilometers behind him, a smoking testament to his desperation. He should have been terrified. Any sane being would be. Instead, Draven lowered his plasma rifle and knelt slowly in the crimson snow. The Pack Alpha, a massive female with scars crisscrossing her snout, tilted her head. Her growl rumbled like distant thunder, a question in an alien language Draven's neural implant struggled to translate. The others circled tighter, claws scraping ice, tongues tasting the air for weakness. "I know what you are," Draven said quietly, his voice steady despite the cold burning his lungs. "I've studied your kind for 6 years, watched your hunting patterns, your den structures, how you protect your young." The Alpha's growl intensified. Several pack members crouched, ready to spring. Draven reached slowly into his thermal jacket and pulled out a metallic cylinder, the beacon from his shuttle. He'd reprogrammed it during the crash, working with frost-numb fingers as systems failed around him. Now it pulsed with a specific frequency, one he'd theorized about in research papers that got him laughed out of 3 academic conferences. He activated it. The sound was inaudible to human ears, but the effect on the Voral was immediate. Ears flattened. Several whimpered. The Alpha's pupils dilated as she backed up a step, then another. The circle broke as pack members scattered in confusion, but Draven wasn't trying to drive them away. He was calling for help. From behind a ridge of jagged ice, smaller forms appeared. Voral cubs, 6 of them, drawn by the distress frequency Draven had woven into the beacon's signal. A call that mimicked a pack in mortal danger. The cubs bounded forward on oversized paws, chirping in their juvenile voices, moving past the confused adults toward the source of the call, toward Draven. The Alpha roared, a sound of pure rage and protective fury. She lunged forward, closing the distance in 3 massive bounds. Draven didn't move, didn't raise his weapon. He simply remained kneeling as Death Incarnate bore down on him. The smallest cub reached him first. Nirek was barely waist-high, his scales still soft and mottled with youth patterns. He skidded to a stop before Draven, head cocked, nostrils flaring as he processed the scent of this strange, furless creature. Behind him, the Alpha's charge became a desperate scramble as maternal instinct overrode predatory drive. Draven met Nirek's eyes, bright gold ringed with green, and slowly extended his hand, palm up. Not threatening, not grabbing, just offering. "I crashed here 3 days ago," he said softly. "I've been watching your den, your pack. I saw the starship debris that fell near your hunting grounds last month. Saw the radiation burns on your packmates, the sickness spreading through your cubs." Nirek sniffed Draven's hand, then made a sound, half chirp, half growl, that the translator rendered as a question. "Why here?" "Because I have medicine," Draven replied. "In my shuttle. Radiation purge compounds. Antibiotics designed for carbon-based predators. I came to this system to study you, but when I saw what that debris was doing..." He paused. "I couldn't just leave." The Alpha reached them, shoving Nirek aside with her massive head, placing herself between the cub and the human. Her fangs were bare, saliva dripping onto the ice where it froze instantly. One swipe of those claws would end Draven's life. But the other cubs had gathered now, circling with curiosity. One nuzzled Draven's back, another pawed at his rifle, sniffing the unfamiliar metal. They showed no fear, only the innocent investigation of youth. Nirek wriggled free from his mother's protection and sat directly in front of Draven. His next words, translated through alien vocal cords and quantum processing, would echo in Draven's memory forever. "Pack protects pack," Nirek said, his juvenile voice carrying an ancient truth. He looked up at the towering adults around them, then back to Draven. "You try shield us. Bring healing." A pause, then the question that broke something in the Alpha's posture. "Do we shield you now?" The wind howled across the crimson ice. The adult Voral stood frozen, caught between instinct and something else, something their species had never encountered before. A prey creature that didn't run, that didn't fight, that came bearing gifts instead of weapons, healing instead of harm. The alpha's growl subsided into something softer. She lowered her massive head until her eyes were level with Draven's, close enough that he could feel the heat of her breath melting frost on his cheeks. For 10 heartbeats, human and apex predator regarded each other across an evolutionary gulf that should have been unbridgeable. Then the alpha did something unprecedented in Voral history. She stepped back, sat on her haunches, and tilted her head skyward in a gesture Draven's research identified as submission, or perhaps invitation. The pack followed her lead one by one, until Draven knelt surrounded not by predators, but by something else entirely. Nirik chirped happily and pressed against Draven's side, radiating warmth. "Pack protects pack," he repeated, and this time the other cubs echoed the phrase in a chorus of young voices. Draven's hand trembled as he reached out to rest it on Nirik's head, feeling the soft scales and the racing heartbeat beneath. "Yes," he whispered. "Pack protects pack." 3 hours later, the Voral escorted Draven back to his shuttle, the alpha walking at his side while cubs tumbled around his feet. He retrieved the medical supplies he'd risked everything to deliver, canisters of purge compounds and broad-spectrum treatments that would save the pack from slow radiation death as he administered the first dose to a sick cub. Nirik watched with those gold-green eyes and asked another question. Why help Predator? Draven smiled, exhausted and frost-burned, but somehow more content than he'd been in years. "Because we're all just trying to survive out here. And maybe," he added, watching the alpha gently groom her cubs, "the most human thing we can do is choose not to be the biggest predator in the room." Nirik considered this, then pressed his head against Draven's leg. "Good answer," the translator offered weakly, though Draven suspected the actual meaning was far more complex. When rescue finally came 4 days later, they found Dravencole sleeping in the center of a Voral den, surrounded by 23 apex predators who had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology, it was the stubborn, reckless belief that any pack was worth protecting.